The day Dad died, I thought the worst was over. I remember sitting in that sterile hospital room, holding his hand as he drifted away, feeling an unbearable mix of sorrow and disbelief. But when the funeral ended and the family gathered at the old house, I had no idea that was just the beginning of a nightmare I never asked for. We all knew Dad's estate was substantial, but what I didn't expect was how quickly the atmosphere shifted from mourning to suspicion. My siblings, who I'd grown up sharing secrets and laughter with, suddenly looked at me like I was an adversary. It was as if years of family warmth had evaporated overnight. The first sign of trouble came when the lawyer showed up with the will. I thought it would be straightforward. Dad always said he wanted to keep things fair. But as the lawyer read through the clauses, tension thickened the air like a storm about to break. It wasn't just about money, it was about control, legacy, and pride. I remember my sister, Alice, her voice cold and sharp as she questioned the will's validity. She claimed Dad was pressured or manipulated, though we all knew she just wanted a bigger share. It stung more than I expected. How could she doubt Dad's wishes and turn this into a battle of accusations? My brother Mark stayed silent mostly, but his eyes told their own story: resentment, jealousy, and a guarded bitterness I hadn't noticed before. It was like the loss of Dad unearthed something dark between us, a rift I feared might never heal. Days turned into weeks, and the family home became a war zone of whispered arguments, cold stares, and secret meetings. I tried to stay out of it, hoping common sense would prevail. But the more I stayed silent, the louder the chaos grew around me. One evening, I overheard Alice and Mark talking in hushed tones about contesting the will. They planned to bring in a forensic document expert, casting doubt on Dad's handwriting. My heart sank. Was this really how they wanted to remember Dad, fighting over scraps instead of honoring his memory? I confronted them the next day, voice barely steady. I told them I only wanted what Dad intended, nothing more. But they laughed, a bitter sound that echoed through the empty halls. They said I was naive, that in this family only the ruthless survived. It felt like a punch to the gut. The lawyer advised me to prepare for a lengthy legal battle. I hated the thought of dragging my family through court, but I couldn't back down. This was about more than inheritance. It was about standing up for myself and for the father who had believed in fairness. I started digging into the will's history, searching for any mistake or oversight that could be used to protect my claim. But every discovery seemed to fuel the fire, giving my siblings more reasons to challenge the document and each other. The house, once a refuge, felt like a cage. I found myself avoiding family dinners, retreating to my room just to escape the tension. Even simple conversations turned into minefields. I missed the days when we could joke and dream together without fear of betrayal. One night I found a letter Dad had hidden in his study, addressed to me. It was filled with advice, love, and a plea for us to stay united no matter what. Reading his words, I cried, not just for him, but for the family we were losing in the process. The court dates loomed, and with each one, the cracks in our family's facade widened. Friends and distant relatives started taking sides, rumors spread, and every new piece of evidence became a weapon rather than a truth. It was exhausting, and I felt more alone than ever. During one heated mediation session, Alice accused me of trying to manipulate Dad in his final days. My voice broke as I defended myself, but no one seemed to listen. It was as if the love we once shared had been replaced by suspicion and bitterness. Mark's silence turned into outright hostility. He refused to meet my eyes and made snide comments about my selfishness whenever he thought I wasn't looking. I wondered if I even recognized the siblings I grew up with anymore, or if the inheritance had changed them beyond repair. My friends tried to support me, but I could see the strain on their faces. They didn't know how to help with a war that was so personal, so tangled in family history and raw emotion. Sometimes I wished I could just run away and leave it all behind. But then I remembered Dad's letter and the sacrifices he made to keep us together. That gave me the strength to keep fighting, even when the nights were sleepless and the days felt endless. I wasn't just battling for money, I was battling for my family's soul. A breakthrough came when the lawyer discovered an overlooked codicil in the will, an addendum that explicitly named me as the caretaker of the estate. It was a small victory, but it shifted the momentum and gave me hope that fairness might still prevail. Still, Alice and Mark refused to back down. They ramped up their legal tactics, digging into Dad's past medical records and questioning his mental state in his final months. It was cruel, and I felt a deep sadness that they would stoop so low. One afternoon, I found myself face to face with Alice in the old kitchen, the place where we'd once shared secrets and dreams. The silence between us was thick until she finally broke down, confessing her fear of being left out, forgotten, and powerless. It was a glimpse of the vulnerability beneath her anger. I admitted my own fears too, the fear of losing my family, the fear of betrayal, the fear that Dad's legacy would be tainted by our fighting. In that moment, something fragile and honest passed between us, but it was still fragile, and the war wasn't over. Mark, however, remained distant and cold. He accused me of playing the victim and refused to participate in any reconciliation efforts. I realized that some wounds ran too deep, and some battles are harder to win than others. The estate itself became a symbol of our fractured family, rooms filled with memories now echoed with silence and resentment. The once vibrant garden was neglected, mirroring the decay of our relationships. I longed to restore not just the land, but the bonds that held us together. As the court proceedings dragged on, I found solace in small victories, moments when a shared memory was recalled, or when a genuine smile flickered amidst the tension. Those moments reminded me why I fought, why family mattered despite everything. One evening, I sat by Dad's favorite chair, running my fingers over the worn leather. I whispered promises to him to protect his legacy, to rebuild what was broken, and to never let greed overshadow love. It was a silent vow, but a powerful one. The final court hearing arrived, and the courtroom was packed with family, friends, and strangers alike. The air was thick with anticipation and unspoken hopes. I felt my heart pounding as the judge prepared to deliver the verdict that would change everything. When the decision was read, it was both a relief and a heartbreak. The will was upheld, but the judge urged the family to find a way to heal beyond the courtroom. It was a reminder that legal battles solve only part of the problem. Emotional wounds need time and care. After the hearing, the house was quieter, but the tension didn't immediately disappear. Alice and I exchanged a tentative nod, a small sign of truce. Mark remained distant, but I held on to hope that someday he might come around. In the weeks that followed, I began the slow process of restoring the estate, fixing broken windows, tending the garden, and repainting walls. It was therapeutic, a way to reconnect with the home Dad loved and to create new memories beyond the shadows of dispute. I reached out to Alice more often, inviting her to help with the renovations. We shared stories, laughter, and tears, rediscovering the sisterhood that had been buried beneath bitterness. It was fragile but promising, a first step towards healing. Mark, however, kept his distance. I sent letters, left messages, and tried to meet him halfway, but he remained silent. It was painful, but I respected his space, hoping that time might soften his heart. The experience changed me. I became more cautious with trust, more aware of how quickly love can turn to resentment. But it also taught me resilience, the strength to stand my ground, and the courage to seek peace even in the darkest times. Friends who stood by me through the ordeal became like family, reminding me that bonds are not only defined by blood, but by loyalty, kindness, and support. Their presence was a lifeline when I felt adrift in a sea of uncertainty. I started documenting everything, the conversations, the emotions, the lessons learned. Writing became a way to process the chaos and to share my story, hoping others facing similar struggles might find comfort or guidance. The estate slowly began to feel like home again, not because the wounds had vanished, but because new memories were being made. I held on to the hope that one day the family could come together not as adversaries, but as kin united by love and shared history. But even as I rebuilt the physical space, the emotional landscape remained complex. Healing is not linear, and some days the pain of betrayal still hit me like a tidal wave. I learned to navigate those moments with grace, leaning on the strength I'd cultivated. The inheritance dispute left scars, but it also revealed truths about who we are, what we value, and the lengths we'll go to protect what we hold dear. It's a story still unfolding, filled with challenges and hope, betrayal and forgiveness. Sometimes I catch myself staring at the family photo album, tracing the faces frozen in happier times. I wonder how we got here and if there's a way back. The answer isn't clear, but I'm determined to keep trying, because blood may bind us, but love is what heals. The nights are often the hardest, quiet, reflective, filled with memories and unanswered questions. I lie awake thinking about Dad's dreams for us, the legacy he wanted to leave, and how I can honor that in a world that feels so fractured. I'm learning to set boundaries, to protect my peace without closing my heart. It's a delicate balance, especially when the betrayal came from the people I once trusted most. But I'm growing stronger, more compassionate to myself and to those around me. The estate's halls still echo with arguments from the past, but they also hold the promise of new beginnings. Each repaired door, each painted wall is a step toward reclaiming not just property, but family ties worn thin by greed and pain. I've started attending family therapy sessions with Alice, hoping to mend the fractures and build a foundation for the future. It's awkward and uncomfortable at times, but also necessary. Healing requires effort, honesty, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths. Mark's absence is a constant ache. I don't know if he'll ever return or if the rift is too wide to bridge. But I hold on to the hope that someday he'll find his way back, not because of the inheritance, but because family matters beyond material things. The legal battle may have ended, but the emotional journey continues. Each day brings new challenges and new opportunities to redefine what family means. It's messy, painful, but also real and raw, the kind of story that doesn't have neat endings. I often wonder if Dad foresaw this unraveling, if he felt the weight of what he was leaving behind. His letter reminds me that despite the pain, love can survive even the deepest betrayals if we're willing to fight for it. Friends have told me I'm brave for sharing my story, for facing the betrayal head-on instead of hiding from it. But really, I'm just trying to hold onto the pieces of my family and myself in a world that suddenly feels very fragile. I keep the letter Dad wrote me close, tucked inside the family Bible, a symbol of hope and guidance. When doubt creeps in, I read his words and remember that I'm not alone in this fight, even if it feels like the whole world is against me. The inheritance disputes stripped away illusions about family and loyalty, but they also revealed resilience I didn't know I had. I'm learning to rebuild not just a house or an estate, but relationships, trust, and a sense of belonging. Some days I feel overwhelmed by the complexity of emotions, grief, anger, love, betrayal, all tangled together. But I remind myself that these feelings are part of the process, a necessary reckoning with the past and a foundation for the future. I've started hosting small family gatherings at the estate, hoping to create new memories and soften old wounds. It's tentative and fragile, but every shared meal, every conversation brings a glimmer of hope that we can find our way back to each other. Alice and I have made a pact to communicate openly and honestly, even when it's hard. It's a new beginning, tentative but promising. I know the road ahead won't be easy, but I'm committed to walking it with patience and love. Mark's silence remains a mystery and a sorrow. I leave the door open, hoping that time and healing will bring him back. Until then, I carry his memory with a mixture of hope and heartbreak, understanding that some wounds take longer to mend. The old family estate, with its creaking floors and faded photographs, is now a place of both pain and possibility. It holds the stories of our past and the promise of our future, a testament to the complicated nature of family and inheritance. Despite everything, I find moments of peace walking through the garden Dad loved, watching the seasons change, feeling the earth beneath my feet, and knowing that life goes on even after loss and betrayal. The experience has changed how I see family, not as a perfect, unbreakable unit, but as a complex web of relationships that require effort, forgiveness, and sometimes painful honesty to survive. Sometimes, in the quiet moments before sleep, I replay conversations and memories, searching for clues about where things went wrong. It's a painful exercise, but it helps me understand and slowly to forgive. I'm learning to ask for help when I need it, to lean on friends and counselors instead of carrying everything alone. The weight of betrayal is heavy, but shared pain becomes lighter and more manageable. The inheritance dispute is not just a legal matter. It's a story about trust, loyalty, and the ways family can both hurt and heal. I'm living that story every day, navigating the twists and turns with as much grace as I can muster. I've found strength in unexpected places, within myself, in the support of others, and in the memories of the father who loved us fiercely and wanted nothing more than for us to stay united. The road ahead is uncertain, filled with challenges and unanswered questions, but I'm committed to walking it with courage, to fighting for what's right, and to holding on to the hope that love can triumph over betrayal. I don't know what the future holds for my family or the estate, but I do know that I won't let greed or anger define us. We're more than an inheritance. We're a family, complicated and imperfect, but still connected by blood and memories. Each day I remind myself that healing is a process, not a destination. There will be setbacks and pain, but also growth and unexpected moments of connection.